Static. I'm Dan, one of the Buck twins, and I'm basically here filling in for David Jade and Damien Vaporo. This is their routine. Let me tell you a little bit about it. So in 2008, Dave and I met David Jade at the Blackpool convention in England. It was there that he showed us some amazing magic, and we were instantly hooked on his style, and we just had to have it for our website. So later, he told us he was going to be at some magic convention in New York, so we took a trip out there. Again, watched him do some killer effects, and one of those was static. Now, what's interesting about this is that when we first saw it, we blew it off as, oh, okay, you know, loop, who cares, it's been around forever. But then he said no loop, and he handed me his deck, and he said, find the gimmick. There is no gimmick, he told me. I proceeded to look through the deck for a good 2 or 3 minutes, and I could not find a thing. Then he cut the deck and handed me the gimmick. Here's the gimmick. What's cool about this gimmick is that it can be in the deck of cards. You can shuffle the cards, cut the cards, do whatever you want, and it goes completely unnoticed, even to a magician, or so I call myself. So you can imagine what this is like in a layman's hands. They'll never find the gimmick or even know it's there. Now that you've threaded the elastic through the playing card, you're ready to finish constructing the gimmick. One final thing, that's tying the knot. Very simple. However, notice that I'm using this red cotton thread. It's important that you at home treat your elastic thread the same manner that I treat this cotton thread. In other words, be very careful with it. Don't stretch it. You want it to be very loose. You don't want to stretch it and pull it tight and then tie the knot. So just get the thread so that it's taut with the playing card through the 2 holes. Once there, I use my little finger to hold the first knot in place so that I can tie a second knot. This is a little tricky, I will admit that, but after a few times, making a few gimmicks, it will become fairly easy. And there's the second knot. So once you have the second knot, it's pretty easy to continue tying knots. And you do want to tie about 5 or 6 knots, because you would hate to have that or those knots come undone during performance. And it's really thin thread, so they do like to undo themselves. So there's 3. I'll just tie one more. And that's it. You've made your gimmick. all that's left to do is take both ends and your scissors and cut off the excess and get as close to the knot as possible, but not too close that you cut off the knot. You can throw those away, and you've made your gimmick. Now what I like to do is take the knot and place it almost in one of the holes you made with the needle. It will move around, but for now, for the first couple times, it will stay there. And you can have a nice flat card in the deck, and this will go unnoticed. I didn't even notice this the first time I handled the deck of cards. And that's the gimmick. What I love about this gimmick is that you can leave it in your deck while you're performing other tricks and it will go unnoticed. You can even have a spectator shuffle the cards and they shouldn't find it. When you're ready to perform static, simply cut the gimmick to the bottom of the deck. This is very easy to do because of the natural break caused by the elastic. You also want the elastic nearest you. When you're at that point, you're ready to begin. Have a card selected and cut the deck, getting a break below your gimmick with your little finger. You're going to take the selection and insert it between the elastic. So using the outer right corner as a guide, you're going to feed the card above the elastic. We'll show you exactly how it's going in a moment, but for now, it goes in and you're set. Just turn the deck end for end and you're ready to move on with the effect. Now there are two effects you can do. One is based off static, the version David Jade performs, and that's where the trick got its name. The second is a version just Dave, myself, and Chad Nelson came up with while we were fooling around with it the other day. We actually prefer our version, but we'll show you both. So we'll get into that now. Okay, I have two cards, the gimmick and the selection. Right now I'm going to show you exactly how the selection is being fed into the gimmick. I'll leave this card face up so you can better see what's going on. Here's the gimmick and here's my thread. Using this outer right corner as a guide, I'm going to feed the selection. Now normally it would go under the gimmick and above the thread, but for clarity and so you guys can see it, I'm going to go on top of the gimmick and below the thread. So it's going below the thread. I'm pushing that card flush with the deck. So you can see the thread is at a diagonal across the card. Again, I'll do it face down. Same thing would be happening from below. So if I was really doing it, I would do it down here and then push it flush. To show you guys, I'll do it up top. So it's going under the thread and pushing it flush with the deck. And that's how to insert their selection into the gimmick. When David Jade showed us this effect in New York, this is the version he showed us. So he took the deck, had us select a card, place the card back in the deck, and then proceeded to generate some static electricity on his sports coat. He did this. Then he said, watch. And just like that, he got the deck to move. He took his finger, generated a little more static electricity, and just pushed right here. And the selection came out. And that's one way to do static. The second way involves the spectator and uses their finger. So we'll get into that now. So we'll still use that as the selection. Let's cut our gimmick back to the bottom. So the selection goes in and Now we're set. From here, I take the cards, place them on the table. I ask to borrow a spectator's hand. I take their index finger, so pretend this is their index finger. I take their finger and place it onto the deck, holding it down. I ask them to name their card. They do, and then I lift up slowly their hand, and the cards immediately cut themselves. And then take their index finger and bring it down, and I touch that corner. So they do all the magic. They find their card, they get their card to shoot out, they turn their card over, they can examine the deck, so everything's hands off. Pretty cool. Here's an alternate approach to inserting the selection into the gimmick. So the setup for this is the gimmick second from top, or below the top card. You still want the thread closest to you. Have a selection made, and this time, instead of cutting the deck, you're simply going to pinky count the top 2 cards in preparation for tilt. Just as before, you're going to take the selection using the outer right corner as a guide. You're going to feed the card above the thread and push it flush with the deck. The same mechanics are achieved in this method as in the last method. From here, however, you have the advantage of being able to shuffle the cards, making sure to keep the top stock. So you can shuffle the cards, you can give the deck some swing cuts, and you're set up. Remember to rotate the deck end for end, and you can complete the effect, having the deck move slightly over and then pop out. So that's an alternate version of inserting the selection into the gimmick, which gives you the advantage of being able to shuffle after the card has been inserted. A nice touch.